Hello team, and welcome to today's video for PowerPoint, where I'll be sharing with you some essential tips for creating professional slides. Using the example slide you see here, we'll be working on updating the slide to get to this endpoint. Remember as we go through this that this slide is just an example with a large amount of data that needs to be shared. And ultimately, the amount of data that's contained on your slide does need to vary depending on your audience and the purpose of your meeting. For example, if you were presenting to a large audience in person, you may want less data on your slide as you want the audience more focused on you. But heading back to our example slide, let's jump in now and take a look at all the important tips to help improve your presentations. The first step for updating our slide is going to be ensuring that we have a consistent font. The easiest way to check for this is to click anywhere within your active slide and then press Ctrl+A on your keyboard. You'll notice the font selection menu is blank, and that's because there's different fonts being used throughout the slide. If, for example, I go back to the slide we're looking to get towards and I press Ctrl+A again, you'll see the font Aptos shows up because all my fonts are aligned. So back on the example slide, after pressing Ctrl+A, I can select Aptos from the text options, and that has now aligned all of our fonts. The next thing we're going to do to fix up this slide is focus on the alignment and spacing of the different text boxes and charts I have located here. As we get into these topics, a good example of what I'm referring to is how the sales trends and sales goals boxes go far lower than the executive summary. Additionally, the box for profit goes much higher than the summary. And as we seek to fix this alignment, this also brings us into spacing. Some examples of inconsistent spacing here are how the sales goals box is much further away from the end of the slide than the executive summary. Additionally, we have inconsistent spacing for the text boxes of profit and business from the sales trends graph below. How I think about tackling these problems is determining the amount of white space within the slide that I have accessible to me to utilize for my information. As mentioned previously, since there is a large amount of data I need to share, I do want to fully utilize the slide as much as possible. Let's begin by aligning the four corners of each of the text boxes to fully utilize our open space. I'll start by extending the business executive summary slide a little bit since I have some extra room. And then I'm going to move the sales goals box off to the right a bit to the point where PowerPoint shows me the spacing between the left and right sides is equal. After moving the box up, an easy way to align the bottom of the sales goals box with the executive summary is to use the Control key on your keyboard to select both. Go to Shape Format here and select Align and then Align Bottom. For now, I've also moved all the text to where the box is now located. To finish up aligning the bottom of the slide, I'll select Sales Trends and Sales Goals, go back to Align and select Align Top, so those are also equal. And now repeating the same steps that we reviewed before, I've not only filled all the blank space within my presentation, but my input shapes are also equal distant from the left and right side and also equally spaced apart between each other. Next up, we're going to discuss the topics of emphasis and simplicity. Starting off with the text boxes for profit and for business, what I want to focus on here is reducing the amount of text so that we can enlarge the font, which will make it easier to read, and it will also allow for those I'm presenting to read the information much easier. Additionally, something you want to avoid is having one or two words wrap onto the next line within your text box. In these cases, it's always easy to remove a few words to make your presentation cleaner. So deleting the text boxes that I have here currently that talk about goals, I'm going to replace them with much simpler text boxes that allow for a larger font. And as a bonus tip, whenever possible, you want your bullet points to flow from shortest to longest, top to bottom within each of your shapes. You'll notice in the executive summary, I have the same issue here where I have one word wrapping onto the next line. Deleting this text, I'll replace it with something much cleaner. Now let's shift our focus to the sales goals in the bottom right. And what we've done is highlight the amount of new customers, 50,000, that we want to bring in this year by writing out a full sentence. To look at a different way we could share the same exact information, I'm going to delete this line and replace it with the information you see here. You'll notice I've said the same exact thing in this new format, but the number is much easier to focus on. And after replacing the 2 additional sentences that were located there, you'll notice again that I've said the same information, but in a way that's much easier to digest. As a final tip for simplicity, looking at our sales trends chart, there's a lot of information we can delete to clean this up. We really don't need the series or axis titles located here, and that allows us to see the chart much easier. Additionally, we don't need the data labels as we have the axis off to the left. And there you have it, team. A much more simplified slide containing the same information, but much easier to read. Now that our slide has been cleaned up, let's add the finishing touches and align all of the colors, as well as insert an image to help this slide stand out. I'm going to begin by inserting the image that I'd like to use and using the Picture Format tab, sending this to the back of the slide. If you're not sure how to create an image with this shape, I'll have a link in the description that covers this topic. The colors that you choose for your presentation are generally going to be based on your specific team or the firm that you work for. What can be very helpful for aligning all of your different colors, especially when you have an image within your slide, is using the eyedropper function to select colors from that specific image. To get us started, I'll select the executive summary box. I'll go to Shape Fill and select Eyedropper. I want this box to be darker, so I'll head to a darker shade from the image and click. Using those same steps from the eyedropper, I've now changed the color for all the different boxes based on the theme of my slide and the image. And as a finishing touch, because I want some of the image to be seen, I'm going to add a gradient transparency to the text boxes. In order to do this, select the text box and then right-click and select Format Shape. Open up the Fill menu and select Gradient Fill. In the Gradient Stop section, I'll leave only 2 options, and I'll change the direction of the gradient. Now I want the leftmost gradient stop to be the same color as the box originally. So again, I'll use the eyedropper. And for the rightmost point, I'll use the same color. But with the rightmost gradient stop selected, I'm going to apply a transparency of 30%. Now, exiting out of Format Shape, I can go to the Format Painter option in the top left-hand side of the Home tab and double-click it. I can now use this to click the box below, as well as sales goals. Finally, I'll add in the icons for profit and business that make sense for this presentation. You can get icons from the Insert tab by selecting Icons. And here you can type in business and click and insert the icons that are most applicable for you. Team, I hope you enjoyed these tips today. In just a few minutes, we took our slide from this to what you see here. Please like and subscribe to the channel for future videos.